Welcome back to Come Play Truth or Dare Online. I'm your host, Miss Sasha, and this is Friday Challenge number 80. Thank you all for sharing your lists last week, or last 2 weeks with Friday Challenge 79. I found this challenge challenging. I've been searching for my life purpose for a long time, and I bet many of you have as well. So I hope you enjoyed the awards and accolades for that. This week for Friday Challenge 80, I want us to think about a couple of concepts and make some lists around those concepts. So first I want to explain. We're going to discuss power over versus power with. So power over is... I'm going to use some trigger words here probably, and I don't mean them to be trigger words. I really just mean them as definitions. So don't freak out. But the power over is a pyramid shape, and it's a hierarchy basically, which is based around a patriarchy, and a patriarchy is based around a kingship. So there were kings, and they had dukes, and then they had, servants and then peons to support their kingdom. And in a way it developed because there was a strong virile man in the community that could protect the tribe, and that was important. But what got lost was a connection to the feminine aspects of all of our human beingnesses. The shaman was sort of taken over by the masculine role, but in the beginning I think it was more feminine role. Now there are lots of different cultures in our history, and many of our more recent cultures have written the women out of history, so it's hard for us to know exactly what used to happen. Anyway, today this concept of power over is in our military, it's in our government, it's in our business systems, it's in our schools, it's insidious in our society and in our culture. I mean, this hierarchy, patriarchy, or whatever you don't want to call it, that's fine, but it is a hierarchy. And we work for each other, we enslave each other, and we strive for power to get higher up the ladder, right? We talk about that, breaking the last ceiling and get higher up the ladder, blah, blah, blah. So all of these concepts are coming from this power over. The opposite concept, versus, is power with. So that is basically equality or feminism. Those words are interchangeable, just so we're clear. But anyway, power with, the concept basically is that every single person has an innate, inherent gift that they bring no matter what they do with it. It's inherent. You are enough just as you are. You are the gift. So it's not necessarily even about finding a life purpose. It's about being yourself, because you're wonderful and you are the gift, and you have specific talents that I don't have, or that someone else doesn't have either. So we each exchange these things. This is my selenite ball. It just helps me. Love it. Anyway, so when we come together in the concept of power with, each person and each life form, even the planet, the ocean, the air, the trees, the grass, all of it, the animals become important because we are not sustainable without them, basically. So just like we are not sustainable without each other, we are not sustainable without all life. So then all life becomes important, and there's this respect for life. So I really believe that, and for each other, right? For each other, what each other can do. So I really believe that if we were able to shift our society into more of a power with society, that it would address these larger concepts, these larger issues that are really dire situations, right? Like, there's not enough water on the planet for everyone, and we're buying and selling air and oxygen and water as a commodity rather than a right, that every human being deserves that. Or that there are too many people on the planet, that there's not enough land or resources for us all. And if we work in a sustainable way that supports each other and the environment, then I believe that we probably do have enough resources on this planet to make it work. But we really need a huge shift, right? We have to stop making corn syrup, and we have to start gardening in our backyards, for example. Anyway, so this week, what I would like you to do for Friday Challenge 80 is just create a list of things that you feel like this pyramid shape, the power over, influences. And then maybe make a list of things that would be wonderful or better if you saw more power with in the world. So we're talking about the concept between power over and power with. There's one other thing that I want to say about this discussion this week, we'll call it. It is a discussion, but I need this week to be a listening discussion. I really don't want arguments in the group. I don't want anyone to be told their feelings are not valued. So please, share your feelings. And then if you feel the same way, please comment and like, oh yeah, I totally get this. I'm with you on this. I get it. But if you're like, well, I don't feel that way, or I don't think you feel that way because I would never do that to you, that's fine. Share those in your post, but don't comment negatively. Do not negate someone else's feelings. These are feelings that we're talking about. They're perceptions, and we don't want to invalidate anybody for what they perceive. Like, that's really their truth, and that's fine. So please speak in I statements, if you will. I feel like this when the patriarchy or when the hierarchy influences my life in this way. I'll give you just like a tiny example, since we always talk about hair in here. So I just trimmed my hairy legs. Like, they're super now pokey. And I met this girl who didn't shave her legs either. And I loved her. And I asked her why you don't shave, why don't you shave, and how do you do it? And she's just like, well, one time I was like tripping acid and staring at my legs. And I was like, why am I clear cutting my leg forest? And I just felt like, yeah, I don't want to clear cut my leg forest. I've been working with these kids at the school, and they're little, like 3 to 6, and they don't have a filter yet. They don't really know what's right to ask or not. But one day what this little kid was like, did you scrub under there? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, did you scrub? And I was like, that's hair. And he was like, what? Why do you have hair there? And I was like, well, we all grow hair there. We all grow hair everywhere, but just some women use a razor to take it off, and some women don't, or use whatever else to take it off. Have you ever seen your dad trim his beard? Well, it's the same kind of thing. And it was really interesting, but that I don't feel comfortable even with small children, 3-year-olds know that that's unusual. I don't want it to be like that. But that hierarchy, and the fact that, I'm going to say it, that I believe that in our society, the hierarchy says that women are slightly lower than men. Like, we're not to be emotional, or emotions are bad, and women are emotional, so then women are bad, and if men are emotional, then they're weak like women. So in these ways, right, I'm like trying to conform to what the hierarchy says a woman should be, and they're supposed to be hairless. Like, that's influencing my life, and I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling with 3-year-olds asking me about my pits because it's so unusual. It's just frustrating. That's how I feel. Anyway, this has been a long video. If you've made it all this way, thank you for watching. I heart you so much. And blessings upon you. And power over versus power with this week. Join me in awakening to this. Right? Wake up. Thanks for playing. See you next week.